In the early hours of February 25, 1942, Los Angeles was on high alert. Just days before, on February 23rd, a Japanese submarine had surfaced off the coast of Santa Barbara, firing shells at the Elwood oil field. Though the attack caused minimal damage, it shook the West Coast. Fear and paranoia surged as civilians and military personnel alike braced themselves for a possible larger assault on U.S. soil. The memory of that attack lingered in the minds of Angelenos as they went about their daily lives. The coastal cities were particularly vulnerable, and after the devastation of Pearl Harbor, it felt as though anything could happen. People whispered anxiously about Japanese aircraft carriers lurking just beyond the horizon, or saboteurs hidden in the heart of the city. As night fell on February 24th, the city's usual fog rolled in, a thick, oppressive blanket that only added to the sense of unease. At 2:25 a.m. on February 25th, the shrill wail of air raid sirens shattered the early morning calm. For the citizens of Los Angeles, the sound was all too familiar. Air raid drills had become part of their routine, but this time, something felt different. The city plunged into darkness as blackout orders were swiftly enforced, leaving homes, streets, and businesses cloaked in shadow. Families, startled from sleep, gathered anxiously in their homes, listening to the distant hum of planes, the rumble of trucks, and the sharp commands of soldiers moving into position. At military bases around the city, radar operators were tracking something unusual. About 120 miles west of Los Angeles, the coastal defense system picked up a large, unidentified object approaching the city. It was moving slowly but steadily, and its size suggested something significant, possibly a fleet of aircraft. The tension that had been building for weeks exploded into action. The military, still reeling from the Japanese submarine attack, feared this might be the long-anticipated air raid. Spotlights across the city snapped on, their bright beams sweeping the foggy sky, searching for any sign of enemy planes. The radar signals remained inconsistent, with the object appearing and disappearing as it approached the coast. The military, unwilling to take any chances, gave the order to prepare for combat. At 3:16 a.m., anti-aircraft batteries along the coast opened fire. The roar of heavy artillery filled the air, rattling windows and shaking the ground as explosions echoed across the city. Bright tracers lit up the night, crisscrossing the sky as soldiers aimed toward what they believed to be an incoming enemy force. Civilians, cowering in their homes, could see the flashing lights of gunfire and hear the distant rumble of explosions, but had no idea what was happening above. As the barrage continued, the searchlights locked onto something. A large, dark shape, barely visible through the fog. It appeared to hover in place, slowly drifting through the sky without any sign of damage, despite the hundreds of rounds being fired at it. Reports from civilians described a massive object moving silently, almost like a blimp or balloon. Others claimed to see smaller, faster objects darting around it, but no one could identify them with certainty. The situation grew more chaotic by the minute. Anti-aircraft guns blasted the sky in a relentless stream of fire, but nothing seemed to fall. The strange object remained intact, unaffected by the volleys of ammunition, and it became clear to some of the military personnel that whatever they were firing at was not behaving like any normal aircraft. Over the course of the next hour, the military unleashed more than 1,400 rounds of ammunition into the sky. The streets of Los Angeles below were littered with shrapnel, and residents reported broken windows and minor damage to homes and businesses as pieces of shell casings rained down. People anxiously listened to radio updates, but little information was given, leaving the city in a state of mass confusion. What exactly was happening up in the sky? By 4:15 a.m., the guns finally fell silent. Whatever had been moving above Los Angeles seemed to vanish, disappearing into the misty night as quickly as it had appeared. The military called off the attack, but no one could say for certain what had been up there. There were no reports of downed planes, no wreckage, no bombs, just silence. As dawn broke over the city, the confusion only deepened. Newspapers were quick to pick up the story, and headlines the next day blared with the dramatic events of the Battle of Los Angeles. But while the headlines claimed a battle had taken place, there was little to show for it. The military initially suggested that as many as 15 enemy planes had been spotted, and some speculated that a Japanese reconnaissance mission had been thwarted. Yet, there was no evidence to back up these claims. The Navy quickly dismissed the idea of an air raid, insisting that no Japanese aircraft had been anywhere near the West Coast that night. The Army, however, maintained that something had been in the sky. Officials floated the theory that weather balloons might have been mistaken for enemy planes, but this explanation did little to calm the public. The contradictory reports from the military only fueled rumors, and soon the Battle of Los Angeles became the talk of the town. Eyewitness accounts from that night added to the mystery. Some residents swore they had seen a large, dark object moving slowly across the sky, lit up by the searchlights but never hit by the barrage of gunfire. Others claimed to have seen smaller, fast-moving craft darting through the mist, evading the anti-aircraft shells with ease. Still others reported seeing strange, glowing lights in the sky, lights that didn't seem to come from any known aircraft. As the days passed, conspiracy theories began to take hold. Some believed the military had been covering up a secret experimental aircraft. Others whispered that it had been an alien spacecraft, a UFO, that had hovered over Los Angeles that night, impervious to the anti-aircraft fire. The fact that no enemy planes were ever found only fueled these theories. How could the military have fired over 1,000 rounds into the sky and hit nothing? Decades later, the incident would resurface in the growing discussions around UFOs and government secrecy. UFO enthusiasts pointed to the Battle of Los Angeles as one of the earliest large-scale encounters between humanity and extraterrestrial visitors. The fact that no solid explanation was ever provided only added to the allure. Theories about alien spacecraft, government conspiracies, and secret weapons tests became intertwined with the event, making it a staple in UFO lore. But even among those who didn't subscribe to the alien theory, questions lingered. How could an entire city, its military forces on high alert, fire so many rounds into the sky and hit nothing? What had caused the radar operators to detect such a large object in the first place? And why had the military been so quick to dismiss it as a false alarm, even when eyewitnesses from across Los Angeles reported seeing something very real? Over time, official reports emerged that claimed to clarify the situation. The most accepted explanation today is that it was likely a case of wartime nerves, possibly triggered by a misidentified weather balloon or even stray flares. The fog, combined with the intense stress of anticipating another Japanese attack, could have led to a chain reaction of confusion. But for those who lived through that night, these explanations felt hollow. For the residents of Los Angeles who huddled in their darkened homes, listening to the thunderous booms of artillery fire and watching the sky light up with tracers and searchlights, the memory of that night never quite faded. Whether it was a UFO, an enemy aircraft, or simply mass hysteria, it left an indelible mark on the city's collective memory. In the years that followed, as more and more strange occurrences and UFO sightings were reported across the country, the Battle of Los Angeles became a symbol of how fear, mystery, and the unknown could converge in the most unsettling ways. Even today, more than 80 years later, the event continues to captivate those who seek answers to the unexplained. And the question remains, what really happened that night over the skies of Los Angeles? For many, the truth may never be known, buried beneath layers of speculation, secrecy, and time. But one thing is certain, the Battle of Los Angeles remains one of the most intriguing and mysterious events in modern American history, a story that refuses to be forgotten.